Alright guys, so this was the first game that I played against Deluxe. This is going to be the mirror matches. Now, one of the things that I want to note here real quick is that this is almost a literal mirror match. We are both playing Hexproof, but I am actually running pretty much the same deck list. I think the only variation was a couple of cards on the sideboard that I chose over some of the options that he had told me he was running. So, opening hand we did learn from Deluxe, and it's pretty well easily assumed that if you have no creatures, it is important that you drop down until you can find creatures. So we're going to throw that hand away. Now, the second hand we have here is looking a little bit better. We do have an option here with two creatures. We got the Scout, which we can get in on turn one. We have a white option available to us thanks to Abundant Growth and Lush Growth. So that gives us some potential even though it has one land. And we're going to actually take a chance and sit on that. Hopefully we can come into, we are on the draw here, so hopefully we can come into maybe another land, which will be kind of the ideal thing here to really get things going and hopefully find what we need to get this armor into play. So first draw is a Ledge Walker, which is not ideal, but we are of course going to start off here drawing a card. We could have put down the Scout and get it untapped as soon as possible, but I think it was almost more important to get an option for getting the armor in play. I also was once again hoping that that draw that we would get off of Abundant Growth would result in an additional forest, but that did not happen. So passing the turn along. Pretty good start here for Deluxe. He is going to start down with the Ledge Walker. Now, one of the important things to note in the mirror match here is the fact that the Ledge Walkers are kind of going to be one of the stronger cards, simply because of the fact that you're not running anything with flying. So the Ledge Walker is the only thing that cannot be chump blocked in this mirror. So that's something that's definitely worth noting. So on the draw, once again, did not find ourselves with an additional land, but we are going to get our first creature into play just so we can start throwing down things. We know that on the next turn we can tap this forest to put out the armor at the very least, and hopefully we can kind of get things going from there. So Ranker on the Ledge Walker, we're going to have to just take whatever damage thrown our way. And it's really good for this match. Like I said, the Ledge Walker is the one thing that cannot be stopped. So we can sit here and we can pile all of our enchantments on Ledge Walkers and be set for the rest of the game. Still no land, but we do have white mana available to us here at the very least, and I am going to take the opportunity to put that armor on. Now, it's important at this point for Deluxe that he gets additional creatures into play. If you see here, he's got this Scout he can use to just chump block me all day until I find a Ranker of my own. So that's going to be definitely an important part of his play at this point in time. Down comes another Ledge Walker, which is not very good. He can, get that additional damage. He can still choose to use that as a chump blocker if he wants, because there's nothing I can do to stop this first one. Still no land, definitely not looking pretty good. Going to put down, again, an Abundant Growth. Gives us a chance to hopefully draw into yet another land, which does not happen. Another land would give us an opportunity to throw down an additional Scout, give us an additional attacker on the field. Trying to be really aggressive here, but at the very least we're sitting on a very slow clock. I'm sorry, a very fast clock, because of the fact that, once again, Ledge Walker cannot be stopped. So we're going to have to sit back and hope that we can maybe get this Armadillo Cloak into play. That would give us a pretty good position at this point in time. You see he's throwing away most of his creatures to just chump block the Boggle. Hasn't really had the opportunity to draw into a lot of enchantments to pump up this Ledge Walker. So the Ledge Walker is doing a lot of damage. It cannot be stopped. But the one thing in my favor right now is the fact that it only has Ranker on it. Still no land, which is definitely unfortunate, but we are going to put down a Boggle. I'm trying to be a little aggressive here by throwing out an additional creature. If I had another Abundant Growth to try and draw into that second land, I really would have gone for it, but I think getting the Boggle out right now is just my best option, trying to speed up my own clock against him. So still, like I said, we're in a really good position because his only enchantment is Ranker. All we really needed to do was to hurry up and get this Armadillo Cloak onto the field. That would have really put us in a good position, because all of a sudden this one Boggle here would be a 6/6. It would have that trample ability, so he would be unable to throw out these creatures. He got a little bit lucky with he'll give me crap for that because I said lucky, but it worked out in his favor to get the chump blockers off of the Scout and the Ledge Walker. Until I get that trample ability up, I can't really do any significant damage to my opponent, in this mirror at least. So continuing to attack through here, already sitting here on a 3-turn clock and have no other play but to put out this Scout, again trying to speed up my own clock. Now this game is pretty much over. If he had not gotten that, I would have had an additional turn to really try and get things going. maybe try and balance things out and pull it back in my hand. I was sitting with 6 on the board, so he was on a 2-turn clock, I was on a 3-turn clock. The only thing he needed to really finish thing was pretty much anything. If he got a creature to chump block this Boggle, then he would have been able to win it. If he got an extra enchantment to throw on the Ledgewalker like he did, then he'd be able to win it. So it was really definitely his game. Being held up on one land definitely hurt me in this. It really held me back from being able to play some of the more significant enchants. Didn't have the mana to throw out these Ledgewalkers. The Lush Ghosts were pretty much dead cards at this point in time. Gnarlid would have been a decent play, but did not quite go our way. So I want to add a real quick note here, because I did not record these live, so there is no sideboarding choices. That there is really one mainstay in this, and that is going to be the Flag Bearer for this matchup, and we'll take a look at it in the next game. I'm going to splice these 3 videos together of the 3 games from the mirror match, so you can check it out and kind of see how it all went. So stepping into the second game here, opening hand is actually looking pretty good. In most cases, if you have a deck and your opening hand has 1 land available, it's something that you're going to want to obviously drop down to 6 or further. Now, we here are going to be pretty good because of the fact that we have the Utopia Sprawl and the Forest. So the Utopia Sprawl is going to be our first play, and it's basically going to act as that second mana. You can see here we're going to be able to get a really fast start by putting the Scout in on turn 2 and being able to attach the armor in the same turn. So we're going to be okay with keeping this 1 land hand. Important, of course, the Sprawl choosing white. This is going to slow things down just slightly because we won't be able to swing with that Scout until the following turn, which would be turn 3, but that's not going to be a huge deal at all. Being able to start with this Utopia Sprawl, as you see, Deluxe gets here as well, is a very, very strong play. So, drawing into a Guildgate, of course, like I said, Scout is going to go down, and with that remaining white mana, we are going to attach the armor, which is great. It allows us to attack for that 3/3 on turn 3, which is really nice. So in a similar instance here, he is putting down Standard Bearer. Now this is where I was talking about the first part of this video. The Flag Bearer is really an important thing here, and it works great. You want to bring it in for even the stompy matchups. What ends up happening is if I want to attach an enchantment to any one of my creatures, sorry, stumbling over that for a minute there, what has to happen is that in order for that to be successful, when my opponent has this Flag Bearer into play, I have to have a Flag Bearer of my own so that it can target my own Flag Bearer. With this Flag Bearer down, anytime I want to cast an enchantment, it's going to be forced to target down my opponent's Flag Bearer. So what it's going to do here is if I get any other enchantments and I want to play them, my only choice for a target is going to be my opponent's Flag Bearer, and that's obviously not something that I want to play. Unfortunately for Deluxe here, I had a really good opening hand in that I have these 2 Gnarlids, so he can continue to leave that Flag Bearer there. I can basically stall for time off of my own Gnarlids until a point in time where they either I draw my own Flag Bearer or the Gnarlids can really take the game for me. Any enchantments that I want to play are going to be things like the Utopia Sprawl, the things that cannot target the Flag Bearer. They have to target a land. So drawing into lands here, I am of course going to use this 3 open mana, put out my first Gnarlid, and you see he comes in at a 5/5. Now one of the really great things about the Gnarlid here, and one of the things that makes it such an interesting creature, is the fact that it has this first part where it says creatures with power less than or a Gnarlid's power cannot block it. So all of a sudden, all of my opponent's little 1/1s cannot chump block it. It's going to become really, really powerful, and just get worse as the game goes on, because I'm going to get a second one, and that's going to be 10 damage on the field that my opponent is going to be unable to chump block. He can sit back and he can chump block my Scout all day, but this Gnarlid is going to definitely cause him all kinds of issues. His best bet here is pretty much going to be being able to pump up one of his creatures so that it was at a point where he can actually block the Gnarlid. Down comes Ledgewalker. He gets his own ethereal armor on that. That's going to be another great thing here for this matchup, and he can either, if he cannot end up blocking this first Gnarlid, he can really hope that he can outclock me by building up the Ledgewalker so that he can do that damage unfazed. Fortunately, I draw a third Gnarlid, so things are going to get out of hand pretty fast. That's going to go down. I'm going to tend to hold on to this Forest for a little while, just to kind of bluff at the fact that I have enchantments that I do not want to play on this Standard Bearer. I don't really know if that or how that would affect him. You'd have to ask him. But I felt like it gave me an opportunity to kind of manipulate things a little more, make him kind of, think that at any point in time I could drop a Standard Bearer of my own and, create this large creature in one turn. So Armadillo Cloak comes down. This is what I said, his best options for beating me here are going to be creating a creature that is going to be able to actually block these Gnarlids. Unfortunately, they're getting bigger all the time, or be able to outclock me by building up this Ledgewalker as fast as he can. Kind of an interesting point he made in the discussion we had regarding the deck is that it really came down to most of the time whoever went first, and in this instance I did get that opportunity to go first. It's given me that opportunity to get the first damage through to my opponent, and I can see where that definitely is going to cause great issue. So drawing the Ancestral Mask, but of course cannot play it because of the fact that it would target the Standard Bearer now. Gonna put down our third Gnarlid, and that's gonna take the game. We have 14 on the field right here, which is what he's at anyways, but this just kind of seals the deal. I don't know. I think he does run Spore Frogs, so he would have had some options at some point to negate that damage. Clearly does not have one on the field right now. But these Gnarlids, once they're on the table in the mirror, get even bigger. So it's one of the benefits of this version of the deck where it is running 4 of the Gnarlids as opposed to most of them which only run 2. Definitely gives you an edge in the mirror. So right now we had split 1 and 1. Like I said, only sideboard changes were that I had brought in Standard Bearers. And let's check out the third game. So stepping into the third match here, our opening hand is fantastic. We have a creature available to us with Slippery Boggle, but we also have a Standard Bearer, which is the one card that we brought in from the sideboard, and it really dominates this matchup. Not only that, we have white mana available to us thanks to this Guildgate, and we have 3 out of 4 armors in hand, so you really can't ask for a much better hand. Now, based off of this opening hand, here's what your early play is. You want to play the turn 1 Guildgate. What this will do is allow you to untap on turn 2, put down the forest, and then you can play the Slippery Boggle plus the Ethereal Armor, and that'll come in at a 2/2 hexproof first strike creature. It also gives you an opportunity for an early game Standard Bearer if you want, but you want to make sure that your first play here is going to be Guildgate on first 1 off of this opening hand, so that can get untapped by turn 2 and you can make a play. Now we are on the draw here, and my plan alters slightly because I draw Utopia Sprawl. Now the plan changes. The correct play here, if you did not draw the Sprawl, is going to be getting that gate in first, but because we get the Sprawl, the mana is going to be basically the same. When turn 2 comes around, what we can do is start with a turn 1 forest into Sprawl here. Turn 2 comes around, we're still going to have access to 2 mana, and 1 will be white. And at the same time, what we're gaining is an extra enchantment on the field. So instead of playing that turn 1 Guildgate into the turn 2 Boggle plus Armor, that would give you a 2/2 creature. By going turn 1 Forest into Utopia Sprawl, when turn 2 comes around, we can then tap that forest to put the Boggle in as a 3/3. So that's something you just want to keep a note of. The Guildgate will, be a little slower. You can get it untapped, but it's going to be fantastic because we've basically accommodated for the fact that we're going to still have that 2 mana without having to worry too much about it. So Deluxe starts off with the Slippery Boggle, which is great. It's kind of a nice thing to get an early Standard Bearer here in if you wanted. That means that he has this Boggle on the table and would be unable to equip it with any enchantments just yet. I decided I wanted to be a little more aggressive here, though. I put the Boggle down and put that armor on. You can see what I was talking about, where it is a 3/3. This does, like I said, this is a more aggressive play. This does leave my opponent open the opportunity with 3 mana to attach something like an Armadillo Cloak to this Boggle right away. If you wanted to play a little more defensively, maybe you could put down the Bearer first, but I think that this was the right move. Down comes a Utopia Sprawl of his own, and he's going to be able to tap now to put out his own Standard Bearer. So this is the situation where we're at. We have my opponent with a Standard Bearer. If I wanted to play any of these 3 enchantments, what I would be required to do at this point in time is target his Standard Bearer. Unfortunately for him, I have a Standard Bearer of my own, and this is kind of a misplay here. I have a Standard Bearer of my own, which I can put down, and this allows me a chance to play enchantments. I guess it's not really a misplay, but this gives me a chance to play enchantments, but when I have an option to target, my only target option is my own Standard Bearer. This is the misplay I was talking about. I knew that I had a note here that it was in somewhere. It should have been, an enchantment on this instead of putting out this Boggle. There's really no benefit to putting out that Boggle early because, again, these Standard Bearers are the only ones that can be enchanted at this point. Lush Growth comes down. I have plenty of mana available here to cast out the Armadillo Cloak, but it's really more beneficial to me to put the Lush Growth out. What this does, once again, is up the total number of enchantments to really pump things up. And then I can tap out here. I had that remaining 1 mana. I can put both armors on there, and now I have an 11/11 Standard Bearer, which is going to be something that he is going to be unable to deal with. My own Slippery Boggle here that I managed to get that early armor on is now a 6/6 as well. So he can sit here, he can chump block these guys, but it's still going to do a significant amount of damage in the long run because it's going to take him a while to be able to combat this size creature. So it gets him down to 2. He is going to just concede the game. And, I think this is just, I wanted to illustrate, I've broken these down into 3 games, or 3 points, I guess. What happens here in the mirror is there's a significant emphasis on the ledge walkers because they can do damage without being blocked by your opponent in the mirror, and the standard bearers. And again, the point with the standard bearers is similar to the point that you would see with Stompy. If Stompy is trying to pump any of its creatures up with any of their things, even like Infect, standard bearer is an important creature to have because if they attempt to cast the mutagenic growth or any of the above enchantments, Hunger of the Howlpack, any of that stuff is going to be forced to target the standard bearer. So it really makes games here. And in the mirror, you want to make sure that you have a standard bearer of your own in there. It's going to be very important to ensure that you can actually get your own enchantments down.